7-year-old Sophie was fun. I felt that I had a lot of joy.
Where are you?
But 8-year-old Sophie, 9-year-old Sophie, I really didn't want to do anything. I felt sad. I felt lost. I had lost that spark. I had lost that joy.
Sophie Else remains haunted by childhood trauma.
Just wait, we gotta put your helmet on.
Now grown with a family of her own, she's speaking out.
It's taken me a really long time to open up about how I'm feeling. It took me over 20 years to talk about how I am feeling.
In 1999, Sophie's family was living in the South Australian fishing town of Port Lincoln when they befriended Anthony Peter Friedendahl through the local Assemblies of God church.
He was a very gentle person. He made people feel instantly welcomed in the church. He gave us lollies and connected with the children.
He said he had a house available and we could rent it off him. He helped me out, like by picking Sophie up when she was at her friend's place and bringing her home. He was just a nice person. We had no reason not to trust him.
Months later, Sophie told her parents Friedendahl had molested her. After they took the allegations to local police, Friedendahl was charged with indecent assault.
His instructions to me are in essence that he's not guilty of those charges. He says he is not involved, he wasn't involved.
When we went to the police, I was only 8 years old and I was terrified.
But in 2002, a magistrate dismissed the charges against Friedendahl over an embarrassing technicality, after crucial prosecution documents weren't provided to the defence.
The court made orders a number of times for the South Australian Police to provide witness statements. Copies of documents weren't saved to the file, so it meant that the documents were not there and the court dismissed the charges.
Oh, I was angry, pretty angry, yeah. If the police had have done their job properly and appropriately, we wouldn't be in this situation right now.
Prosecutors advised local police to rearrest Friedendahl to face court again. When an officer did start looking, they discovered Friedendahl had left the country, flying to South Africa.
I couldn't believe that he was allowed to walk around when he had warrants for his arrest.
We'd like to tell you more about the way South Australian Police handled Sophie's case. But despite these events taking place around 2 decades ago, under new laws introduced in 2016, we can't disclose any further details, leaving you, the public, in the dark.
I think it's a joke. To sum up what the police have put us through, it's just horrible.
In 2011, Friedendahl was back in Australia and faced court. He was granted bail and allowed to return to South Africa to do charitable work.
He was allowed to exit Australia with a passport. He had to pay a surety, but unfortunately he didn't return from South Africa back to see the next hearing date at court in Australia.
Why did he choose not to return to Australia?
It amounts to his medical condition. So he was not able to fly, and in fact that was conveyed to the authorities in Australia, I believe, by his lawyer at the time.
As the case dragged on, Sophie struggled to cope.
I was about 18 at the time. I hated myself. I was going through my teenage years alone. I felt very out of place. I didn't feel like I'd fit in anywhere. I felt like a failure. I felt that I couldn't trust people.
As a permanent resident of South Africa, Friedendahl and his wife moved to a flat in Cape Town. In 2016, 5 years after he breached his bail, the Australian government filed an application seeking his extradition to face more than 20 counts of alleged sexual abuse against Sophie and other children.
My mum and my dad, they were so excited, and they were like, our day's coming, we're finally getting this moment, he's coming back.
But 6 years on, Friedendahl is yet to return to Australia. His legal team is fighting the extradition, claiming the now 80-year-old is too unwell to fly, having cited illnesses including skin cancer, tuberculosis, diabetes, a vascular disorder, fluid on his heart and epilepsy.
Over all these years, his condition has deteriorated significantly. I've seen it. I've visited him in prison on a fairly regular basis, so I've seen how he's gone downhill. If he flies there, that's going to significantly aggravate his medical conditions.
Last year, a judge agreed with the South African prosecutor's argument that those illnesses were exaggerated. But Friedendahl's lawyers say his health has taken a turn for the worse since then, and his condition is now critical. Is he looking to evade his trial in Australia?
No, absolutely not. He's quite happy to have his day in court, but he doesn't wish to be detained, and the detention is making his medical condition even worse.
Friedendahl's been in a Cape Town prison since the extradition request was made by Australian authorities in 2016. Last year, he was denied bail.
Is it really in the interest of justice to pursue criminal charges where a man has already served many years, effectively? He hasn't even been convicted of these charges yet, but has already served all this period of time. You know, he's been punished. That's got to be taken enough into account.
I am so heartbroken that it's taken this long.
Now 29, Sophie has recently started writing about her experience.
The woman I am today is brave. She is courageous and strong. I fight for what I believe in.
I hope she gets her day in court. It's been a long time coming.
While Friedendahl fights his extradition, Sophie's left to wonder if she'll ever be called to give sworn evidence.
Moving forward, I want closure. I would like him to come back and face the charges here in Australia. But I'm also holding hope for something that has taken many years, and I don't feel that day will ever come.